We're hot. Okay. Speaking of hot, my car was like 116 and I had the window shade thing on. I thought, holy smokes, without that window shade, it's gonna have. Well,
Crapson's on the line.
Good evening. It is 5 p.m. This is our regular scheduled council meeting, Tuesday, June 23rd. Councilman Rapson is calling in, and Councilman Galt, is he on the line yet?
Yes, I'm here.
And Councilman Galt is on the line also. Okay. We don't have anybody for invocation this evening, but I was thinking about it, and I'd like us to take a moment of silence to honor our first responders across the nation. The more I think about it, no one has a more difficult job, especially in these very trying times. Thank you, and please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We'll start with public comment. If you have public comment to make, please step up, clearly state your name, and you're limited to 3 minutes, please. Okay, I don't see anybody in the audience, but we do have
Yes, we have one from Adam Leverance. Oh.
Good evening. My name is Dean Zekas, and I'm here with LZH Development. And my question is with regard to 880 West Houston. That's zoned for CR2 is what they're applying for. That's business. What kind of business?
Nothing that I could answer, sir, but we will be discussing that when we get to that agenda item.
Oh, so I'm premature when I come up here.
Oh, no, it's fine, though.
All right. Well, the second one is 940. That's an open area for maintenance.
Okay, and that also will be discussed at the agenda item.
All right.
Then you get a real full understanding of it. Okay, thank you. Any other public comment? E-comment, please. Ma'am, comments made? Please, by all means.
My name is Vanessa, and I'm here to express my concerns over possible budget cuts to Mesquite Fire and Rescue. I'm sure we all have and continue to express anxiety and stress as the unknown continues to unfold. As a wife of a Mesquite paramedic firefighter, for us, it started with concerns about the safety of our 2-year-old son and our baby boy our baby girl that is on the way. We know that a paramedic's job is essential, and this is what he signed up for when he joined with Mesquite Fire and Rescue. When things first started to come from after shift, where he should go, possibly just stay in the house. And who knows if or when one of his calls is a COVID patient. Getting ready for a possible COVID call, wearing a mask, face shield, gloves, safety glasses, down, etc. So keeping a 6-foot social distance from a patient. We know that wasn't going to happen. Constantly disinfecting every possible surface in the ambulance and around the fire station. After 48 hours, he eventually got a break. However, the stress doesn't just go away. It actually just starts to begin. We know that COVID is still out there and it has become our new normal. We have adjusted as best we can. In the meantime, the possible riots are going to take place in the future. We felt safe, protected because I had faith in our community. But guess what? A lot of people didn't. There were a lot of concerned citizens. You know, he would have been one of the first ones to step in if things got bad. A very own firefighter. About the first shooting was the shooter from. Like, how to get the dangers of their career. Firefighters is on tonight's agenda. The firefighters continue to be trained to handle anything that gets thrown away. Some things haven't changed because emergency calls continue to happen every single day. Just the other day, I got a call from my husband who was quarantined because he was possibly exposed. And I'm not talking about a COVID exposure. I'm sharing this to show another insight into what we go. If you want the best for our community, if you want to know that you and your family are in good hands, give them the most. I know my husband loves his job. He wouldn't want anything else. He loves helping people being up front. I want people like him serving. We need to take care of quality paramedics, EMTs, firefighters. Consider what cutting the budget of an essential service such as the Mesquite Fire and Rescue means for our community, their families, and for them. I hope the city of Mesquite thinks long and hard about the way they treat the frontline workers in the middle of the pandemic. We shouldn't be discussing budget cuts for frontline workers. We both see everyone is in agreement. Our frontline workers should be getting half. I know times are tough and difficult.
Any other public comment? E-comment.
We have an e-comment from Adam Leverance, and it states, at the last regular meeting, Police Chief Joseph McQuaid Chesley gave a moving speech related to his department, insomuch as he talked about how Mesquite's police should strive for transparency and accountability. I was in full agreement. Anyone who has heard me speak over the years should realize that these are some of the very things I strongly advocated for. Likewise, I found myself agreeing with the chief's need for more training. I said as much as at the April 10, 2018 regular council meeting and noted that Mesquite's public employees could receive training from the Nevada Commission on Ethics simply by having the city pay travel and lodging expenses for the trainer. Al Littman seemed to take offense at that idea and subsequently wrote a piece in Mesquite Local News. As with most of his articles in response to things I've said, he took substantial liberties with the truth. Fortunately for him, it seems that a lot of people would rather believe lies from the mayor than investigate the facts. In any case, I took away from his musings the impression that he was saying, by God, nobody's going to teach us ethics. Although I'm pretty confident that no one can teach Mayor Al Littman to be more ethical and honest, I do still hold out hope for Chief Chesley, and again, ask that he addresses issues related to multiple MPD personnel tear gassing and breaking into my property without a warrant in a ridiculously overzealous and failed attempt to serve 2 misdemeanor citations. I again ask that the chief address the well-documented and recorded instance of an MPD officer, now a lieutenant, threatening to arrest me, that guys would come help him and things wouldn't go well for me, merely for speaking at City Hall during designated public comment. I again ask that he address someone in the MPD, perhaps Chief Chesley himself, lying to Barb Elistad about me for publication in Mesquite Local News back in February. When the police chief spoke on June 9th about department members having shiny badges, knowing that the euphemism isn't true for all department members, I found myself kind of rolling my eyes. Fortunately for the chief, as with Mayor Littman, it seems that a lot of people would rather believe stuff about shiny badges than investigate the less favorable facts. The illusion of a totally ethical and honorable department, which might be created by saying wonderful things about it while censoring, redacting, or otherwise trying to keep from public scrutiny factually based unfavorable things, or trying to intimidate members of the public into silence on such matters, isn't the same thing as actually having an ethical and honorable police department. I hope that it's a long last time for real transparency and accountability, and that the departments now will.
Thank you. Any other e-comment?
There are none.
There are none. Okay, we'll move on to consent agenda, items 2.1, 2.2, 2.3, 2.4. Any comments from council on consent? Any comments from the general public on consent? Not a call for motion.
I make a motion, we approve the consent agenda. I'll
Rapson,
second.
second.
We have a second. Call for the vote, please.
Rapson, aye.
we get Councilman Galt on there? Did we lose him? It's muted. Okay. Okay. Can't give him a vote. Okay, so.
Sorry, I had to mute my phone. I'm sorry. I voted aye.
Okay. All right. Now we got it. Thank you. And that motion passes. Thank you. Item 3.1 is consideration for approval of Resolution 1014, Zone Change Master Plan, Amendment Case Number ZCM-20-001, the Terry and Vicky Living Trust, to amend the Coyote Willows PUD Master Plan by removing 7.13 acres at 880 West Hafen Lane from the Planned Unit Development Master Plan map, changing the land use designation of property near Pulsifer Wash from golf course maintenance facility and RV parking to Pulsifer Wash drainage easement, and by changing the zoning of the following two parcels: 880 West Hafen Lane from Planned Unit Development, PUD, medium density multifamily MF3 and Parks and Recreation open space zones to medium density multifamily MF-3 zone, and 940 West Hafen Lane from Planned Unit Development, PUD, medium density multifamily MF3 and Parks and Recreation open space PROS zones to Planned Unit Development, PUD, Parks, Recreation, open space and zone. This is a public hearing item. Mr. Seacrest, you want to start that, please, prior to?
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the City Council. This item was continued from last month, so it could be advertised as a public hearing. It now has been. As you recall, this item involves both master plan amendment for Coyote Willows and some zone change requests. And also, since last month, the owner of the property at 880 West Hafen Lane, who initiated this action, changed their request. They dropped the request for the commercial CR2 zoning on that parcel. So the request now is to leave it multifamily MF3 and take off the Parks Recreation open space zoning and the PUD designation. But I'll explain that further as we go through this. Let's see, can I get that vicinity map up, Tyson? Let's see, let's back up. This is the vicinity map. So we got Riverside Road, Hafen Lane, Hagen's Alley here. These are the two properties that are proposed to be rezoned, and the rest of the Coyote Willows planned unit development here. In 2018, this 5-acre parcel at 940 West was sold to CW Investments. It's the entity that purchased the golf course at Coyote Willows and is currently operating it. Their plan is just to maintain it as is, the golf maintenance facility, parking for the golf course, and the clubhouse is right next to that. This parcel at 880 West was also sold to the Terry and Vicky Living Trust, the Lindy and Monica Family Living Trust. The master developer of Coyote Willows had no desire, I guess, to get into the multifamily housing market beyond what they're already doing there at Coyote Willows, single dwellings and townhomes. So he sold off this property. It's about 7.15 acres. And the current owners are, I suppose, considering their options going forward from here, looking at whether they're going to develop the property themselves or sell it. In any case, they want it to be out of the PUD, and that's why the request here to amend their master plan, delete it from the boundary, and change the zoning. The PUD was approved in 2004 and their master plan was approved. It's on 150 acres. There were 465 total units supposed to be built in the project. This was the master plan layout approved for the project back then. And there are a couple of changes that are going to be proposed, but for now, to explain the historical context, this is Pulsifer Wash over on the west end, next to the Casablanca golf course. And it's shown as golf course maintenance facility, RV parking. That, of course, never materialized on this site. And then you've got the two parcels out front that I just spoke about at 880 West and 940 West Hafen Lane. Both of those areas were designated on their master plan for high-density multifamily housing. Now, the density, there was 152 units proposed in that 12-acre area. So the density is about almost 12 and a half units per acre, which fell into the city's medium density land use designation. So that's how we zoned it, medium density residential, even though they were calling it high density. But 152 units were proposed, some type of multifamily housing here, and a certain amount of it was just left zoned for parks, recreation, and open space. Under this current application, the owner is requesting several things. Again, with the master plan amendment, instead of having golf course maintenance and RV parking over here at Pulsifer Wash, that's just designated as the Pulsifer Wash conservation easement. The property at 940 West is proposed to be downzoned. They're asking to delete the multifamily housing designation and just leave it as golf course maintenance and park, recreation, and open space. And the parcel in red, the 880 West, as I mentioned at the outset, they've changed this request. They're no longer requesting a commercial designation for that property. They want it left multifamily, medium density, but remove the PUD boundary and the open space zoning that was on it. Unfortunately, as fate would have it, we sent our notices to property owners within 750 feet. The day after we did that, that's when I learned they changed the request. So a lot of people got the notice that said it was proposed to be commercial. We caught the newspaper ad in time that was changed. The sign on the property was changed. But in any case, the request is now just to leave it multifamily. So what does that mean for the PUD? Well, as I stated, there were 152 housing units proposed in these two areas. Nothing's going to get built on this one. So that's about 64 or so units that would disappear. This property could develop anywhere up to 20 units per acre. But those 152 units will they won't be developed in Coyote Willows. So the total number of housing units in the project goes from 465 down to 313. And presumably this piece will develop at some point, but outside the PUD. And I think with that much of an introduction, I'll sit down and unless you have any questions, we're going to have the public hearing.
Thank you. Okay, comments from council first. Councilman Wisdom.
So what we're dealing with here is the only real change is that they want to pull it out of the PUD. They want to keep the same zoning outside the PUD that's in the PUD, and they dropped the commercial.
Yeah.
So there's really no change on zoning at all between the two, other than just pulling out PUD, right?
Well, taking out the Parks, Recreation, and Open Space Zone as well. But that's, it doesn't amount to much. I mean, there's going to be open space in the housing when they develop it as well, so.
And the HOA wrote us a letter saying they're for pulling it out of the PUD. They have no problems with this. I read that letter that was sent by the HOA, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. That's the one that we received as council.
Your Honor, if I may.
Please.
Yeah, so fundamentally, nothing changes on that 7 acres, except there's a portion of open area that's being essentially relocated to where the golf cart barn is in the parking lot. Is that correct, Richard?
Yes.
Yeah, so there's
And
fundamentally there's actually a reduction of the residential that can be built on those 12 acres in combination compared to what it was, correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Any other questions from council? I don't see any, so I will open up for public hearing. If you wish to make comment, please step up, clearly state your name.
Kurt Cox, resident of Coyote Willows Homeowners Association. So one thing about that is it was a 12 acre parcel, but this piece that's being pulled out is actually a 7 acre parcel, but I think it has the potential of accommodating the same number of units. So you're actually going to get, you could possibly get more units on a smaller space from how I look at it. Also, those other two pieces, I think that they should just be considered separately from the 880 West piece. If the MS3 designation at the 880 West Hafen parcel in this resolution sticks, it's possible that that future development of the parcel will accommodate up to 152 units. This parcel is located on a minor arterial street that would become an even more significant artery with that many additional units. And if the project keeps with the character of this part of town, we may well expect parking issues like those that we see at Skyhawk Townhomes on the same road to the east and on Smoky Lane next to Smoky Lane condos to the north. Residents of the single family area across the road are rightly concerned that there will be street parking, which will diminish the quality of the neighborhood. The city should be promoting orderly physical growth and preventing future problems like street parking and traffic flow issues. Part of the argument of this zoning change is that this change supports the character of the neighborhood, since it really doesn't change the previous zoning of MS3. But what is the character of this neighborhood? And what does the city and nearby residents want the character of this neighborhood to be? The current MS3 zoning was approved many years ago. Things have changed in that area. This zoning may not be the best fit for the character of the neighborhood. Many residents, including myself, are concerned about that. A lower density designation is a more desirable fit for this area, as this part of town already has more than its share of high density parcels. If we simply remove this parcel from Coyote Willows PUD to facilitate an easier sale of the land by its current owners, we're likely to get just what it is zoned for, a high density of housing. And that leaves one to speculate that this parcel is a prime target for workforce housing of the high density kind, like ones that dot the area already. We need more of the low density workforce housing like Levitt Estates, the single family housing development that's across the street. Workforce housing that allows families of needed professionals to possibly custom build homes to fit their needs and wants. Such planning would be more consistent with the current character or changed conditions of the neighborhood, in my opinion. And that's why I think the zoning change at 880 Hafen should be denied as proposed. However, I'm not against changing the zoning of the Pulsifer Wash drainage easement area or the 940 West Hafen Lane parcel, as those make a lot more sense. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm John Swanson. I live in Coyote Willows. And unlike the last person, I am for this because I think that the number of units that are in there now, when we go to vote on things, those units still have some voting power. And I just soon get it out of our PUD. And I've talked to the owners that own this property, and they did take the commercial out. And they are planning on nothing in the zoning other than the commercial part that they took out. It's not changing anything from the current zoning as I understand it. And I'm for this. And as far as the 940, I'm for that too. And also the Pulsifer one. I just think that if the zoning stays the same, when those people get ready to develop it, they have to come before the city zoning and things and present their plans. And that's the time I think we could discuss maybe what our objections are going in there instead of now. But I'm for it.
Ray and Shelley Corn, we live in Coyote Willows also. Whatever happens with that piece of property and its development will take its place. I'm already not as alarmed now that the zoning is not going to be changed in the PUD. I am concerned about these things. We have an RV park going in, we've got a Panda Express going in, and now we have this medium or whatever density housing that it's going to be. The infrastructure in that area is not going to handle it. So I just want to know what kind of plans that the city has in order to improve the roads, particularly south of on Falcon Ridge that leads into the Casablanca and the Sunset Greens area. Nathan, which after Coyote Willows goes down to a very narrow 2-lane highway. And on top of that, with the increase of everything, Levitt is a road most people don't take, but they will be taking it. So I just want to know what kind of plan there is when you're going to developing this stuff. What it is there? Are we going to put any stoplights between Hafen and Riverside? Because that's notoriously bad. Because when you at between 5 and 5, the Hagen's Alley is a sprint zone for cars that are going either into Joshua Tree or to Bunkerville, just to avoid that intersection. So is any plans discussed on the infrastructure and how it's going to change?
That would have to be addressed probably by Travis. Is he here?
Your Honor, if I may.
Go ahead, please.
With respect to future traffic lights, that's been discussed, but we've had traffic studies that don't cause those warrants to be enforced at this point. Once we reach the traffic levels, then it will probably become one of the first places to get a stoplight. But until the development comes, nothing changes and the traffic demands don't allow for it. With respect to the development of Hafen Lane on the south side along this thing, if it's ever developed, the 12 acres or the 7 acres for sure, they will have an obligation, if I'm not mistaken, to improve that side of the road with curb, gutter, sidewalk, traffic lights, so forth. As far as Panda Express, that's not on the agenda. And
no,
frankly, that's a 4-lane road already leading to Panda Garden.
Well, I'm talking about the Falcon Parkway that is south of Levitt going into Sunset or to Sunset Greens.
Oh, that's
and then the narrowness
road.
Of the road. Sorry?
The city does not own that road. That is a private property, private road.
So what the hell are we going to do with it?
We can't.
It's up to the landowner.
Yeah. It isn't ours.
Okay.
And to the extent that Hafen Lane gets improved, it makes it easier for those RVs to get in and out of the proposed development. They have to improve their side of the road as well. So this is all adding to the benefit of improvements on Hafen Lane as development happens. But we can't dictate to what somebody does with their own property. That road's an accommodation to Sunset Greens, period.
Then who do we contact to improve that road once all these developments take place? Sunset Greens?
No, they don't own it. I believe
Who
it's
does?
the Hafens own it. But it's their land. It's like if you owned it, you could do whatever you want with it. You could put a house on it. We can't mandate them to put a road in their own property.
Okay. Well, my last statement is this, and I'm sorry if I'm over.
Go ahead.
We bought our property in 2005. We did not move in here until last September. The only thing I'm thinking of is all these developments and whatever's going in there and the infrastructure of our community. When you look at Riverside, I hope south of Mesquite Boulevard does not become the poor side of town. Thank you.
I agree with that.
Okay, yeah.
There again, my second time around, I'm Dean Zekas again, representing LZH Development. Most of my questions were answered for the most part, but I still have one concern that's with regard to 940 Hafen, or 940, whatever the property is. Yeah, it's Hafen Lane. That property is primarily designated for, it's open space for maintenance, is my understanding. Is that right?
Yes.
Is there any stipulation that that's all it's going to be, or maybe perhaps sometime down the road they might change it and put a restaurant in there, or even a pig farm? Who knows? Is there anything that will hold them to just that type of an environment?
I believe it would. Richard, you want to answer that question?
Yeah, I mean, the principal thing that's going to keep it from further developing is that it's being downzoned to just an open space zone. So the only thing that's allowed is, park area, the golf course.
But is there some kind of a law that says that they own the property and it's zoned for open space and it's not stipulated what the open space can be used for?
Well, golf course.
Yeah.
It's not stipulated for that.
That zone doesn't allow any commercial, doesn't allow residential, so not much is going to develop
It doesn't leave much.
unless they were to come in and request a change. Then we go through all this again. But in an open space zone, that's about the best protection you have. Nothing happening with it other than what it's being used for.
I don't quite understand that. The people that own 940, as he said, have that property designated for open space, primarily for maintenance for the golf course. My question again is, is there a stipulation that says they have to do that and nothing else? And then you're telling me that that's the most practical use for it? Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying the zoning only allows open space, park kinds of uses.
Okay, it allows for open space. Say it again.
Park.
Park?
Park or golf course facilities, recreation facilities.
So no restaurants, no commercial, no housing.
Good enough.
Yeah. Thank you.
Until they change it next week.
So Travis Anderson, City Engineer, Public Works Director, just wanted to address a couple of the items brought up on the infrastructure. And please, I'd love to, if you'd like to talk, I'm available anytime. But as far as the infrastructure on Hafen Lane, George Rapson said it perfectly as far as, so the city is responsible for the middle half of the road, and then development as it happens, those developers would do their improvements to the roadway at that time. So as far as you see that it is fully improved through the beginning of that, and then it necks down, that is because the land has not been developed in those areas. So when the developer comes forward, they would be responsible to do those improvements. I believe on this section where we're talking here, there's already curb and gutter. There would be responsible for sidewalk. I can't remember if there is sidewalk there or not. There might be. So if there is or isn't, that's one of the things we as a city would require them to do at the time they develop it. In response to the intersection of Hafen and Riverside, we have been aggressively doing engineering studies on those. There's a couple areas of town that we are looking at lights, traffic signals, Back in 2017, we did a traffic analysis of that intersection, and it did not meet any of the 9 warrants that require a traffic signal. We will be doing another study in this current fiscal year to analyze that intersection along with some more to see where that's at. Those warrants include traffic demand, volume of traffic at those locations, schools, fatalities, crashes. So there's 9 warrants that have to go into those, and we will look at all of those when we do that engineering study. But that's kind of where we're at.
Thank you. Okay, any other public comment? Is there any e-comment?
There are none.
There's none? Okay. If you don't, closing public hearing and turning it back to council for any more discussion and or a motion.
If there's no more comment, I will make a motion to approve.
Second.
And we have a second. Call for the vote, please.
Rapson, aye.
Galt, aye.
And that motion passes. Thank you. Okay. Item 3.2, consideration of approval of resolution number 1024, an interlocal agreement with Regional Flood Control District for the maintenance of Mesquite flood control facilities for the fiscal years 2020-21. Okay. Comments from council on that item? I don't see any. Give them just a second to clear out a little bit, and then I'll ask for public comment. Okay, do we have any public comment on this item? Any e-comment?
There are none.
None? If not, I would seek a motion.
I make a motion we approve resolution 1024.
Second.
Call for the vote, please.
Rapson, aye.
Galt, aye.
And that motion passes. Thank you. Okay, I have no particular comments to make this evening. Do we have any reports from City Council? I don't see any. Staff reports tonight. We do. Chief Andrus.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council, members of the public. Just want to give a brief update on our community testing for COVID-19. As of this afternoon, we have tested 1,161 individuals in our community. We've had 15 positive results. Out of those 15 positive results, we've had 6 from Littlefield, 2 from Logandale, and 7 from the city of Mesquite. We are waiting on results for 107. As of per the Southern Nevada Health District, we're sitting at 39 cases here in the city of Mesquite since March 15th. As of this afternoon at 2 o'clock, our registration process for community testing has changed from a phone call to city staff to it has been put online. We appreciate Dirk Marshall and his staff for assisting us in this process. We've also moved community testing to Station 1, located right here behind City Hall, and that occurs every Tuesday morning from 7 to 9. We appreciate the volunteers, city staff from various departments, and Maceview Hospital for providing the nursing staff at no cost to the city. End of report. Any questions?
Questions from council?
Thank you.
I don't see any. Thank you, Chief. Okay. Any other? Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Janice Redondo, Community Resources Manager. If I put this somewhere, can you, where's the camera? Tyson, where do you want me to go? So, of course, I'm here to talk to you about the 2020 census. And we are excited that Come on. Do you want me to move? This side. Oh, I see cable. Okay. So you'll see the Nevada self-response rate just shy of 61%. And very exciting, the city of Mesquite just shy of 67%. However, some of you may remember we're involved in a little battle with the city of Fernley, and they're at 67.5. We can't have it. We can't have it. They're 0.6 ahead of us.
And I do not want to wear a Fernley t-shirt, thank you.
I don't want you to have to wear a Fernley t-shirt. We may even have to have you wear a Fernley hat. I mean, this is getting out of control. So, everybody, as I've asked you, please self-respond to the U.S. Census. And for those folks who maybe need to be urged with a hamburger or a hot dog, this coming Saturday, June 27th, from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Mesquite Senior Center, we are going to be exchanging counts for hamburgers. So it's Saturday census, 11 to 2, Mesquite Senior Center. Councilman Rapson has offered to flip some burgers. We'll be there. Bring your census information, and we're going to get you signed up. And we've got goodies and T-shirts and tchotchkes and all sorts of stuff. So if you haven't filled out your census, don't do it until Saturday. But please show up between 11 and 2, Mesquite Senior Center, this Saturday, June 27th.
Can we do it more than once?
I can't answer that. I'm being
Thank
recorded.
you. Okay. Just checking. Okay. Hey, we got to beat Fernley one way or another. Okay. That's embarrassing. Okay. Any other? Val? Nope. Okay. Next item is 5.1. Consideration of introduction of bill number 577 as ordinance 577, a development code amendment, removing a couple of contradictory notations in MMC sections 9-7G6, height regulations for the attached housing MF1 zone and 9-71-6, height and area regulations for the medium density MF3 zone. That is the Mr. Seacrest item.
Mayor, members of the council, I would characterize this item as a cleanup item, amendment to the MF1 and MF3 chapters, just deleting a couple of references that should have been deleted 2 years ago when we passed Bill 544, amending the multifamily zones. But rather than go through and explain everything now, this is an introduction. I'd recommend we introduce the bill and set the public hearing date for July 15th.
Okay. 14th.
14th? Oh,
14th.
sorry.
Okay. Okay. Any questions from council? Any questions, comments from the general public on this item? If not, I'd seek a motion to introduce this bill.
I move to introduce bill number 577 as ordinance 577.
I'll second.
Okay, call for the vote, please.
Golf tie.
Councilman Rapson, are you there? He said aye, okay. And then we're just waiting on Ms. Black. On her way.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, that motion passes. Thank you. Okay, item number 6.1, consideration for adoption of bill number 576 as ordinance 576 to amend Mesquite Municipal Sections 9-8-5L. We have you though. Accessible parking for physically handicapped persons. That's a public hearing item. Mr. Seacrest, do you want to introduce that real quick? And Dan will introduce it, okay.
Members of the council, yes, this is a very minor, not correction, but update to the city's municipal code where we are updating the references to the NRS with the most current references and putting that into our code.
Okay, thank you. This is public hearing item. First, I'll turn it over to council if you have any questions or comments. I don't see any. I will open up this public hearing. If anybody wishes to make comment at public hearing, please step up, clearly state your name. You're limited to 3 minutes. I don't see any. I will then close public hearing and call for motion.
I make a motion, we approve bill number 576.
I'll second.
Rapson, aye.
Golf aye.
Thank you. And that motion passes. Thank you. Item 6.2 is consideration of adoption of bill number 578 as ordinance 578, amending Title 9 of Mesquite Municipal Code entitled Unified Development Code by amending Section 9-7F-4, accessory uses in the single-family SF zone. Section 9-7F6, height and area regulations in the single-family SF zone and other matters properly related thereto. This is also a public hearing item. Mr. Seacrest.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. This bill seeks to give some additional guidance and control over small accessory buildings that don't require a permit. Under City of Mesquite's building codes, if a building is under 120 square feet, no permit is required. They can still put them on their lot. They just don't have to get a permit. Well, so homeowners often go get their tough shed or they build something on site, but put it, wherever they want it, and oftentimes without regard to what the setbacks are supposed to be, whether or not they're in a public utility easement, and sometimes so close to property line that the roof overhangs the property line, and you get roof drainage on the neighbor's property, and animosities develop. So we're trying to clarify what the rules are with these, and do a little bit of an education campaign, but develop a set of rules for the small accessory buildings versus those that are larger and do require a permit. The typical, accessory building that requires a permit is a garage, and those are usually built within what we call the building envelope, the buildable area of the lot. There you go. So this is a typical rectangular shaped lot showing the setbacks, front, rear, side. In a conventional single family zone, you got a 20-foot front setback, 25-foot rear, and 6 feet on the side. And within that area, you can build your house in the attached garage or detached, build it up to 35 feet high. But with the small accessory buildings, again, people often place them wherever they want to. They usually end up in the rear yard because it's typically a tool shed or something for landscaping or gardening. And they usually want to put it in a way, in a location that, it's not going to block other activities with that open space. So they shove it as far up against the property line as they can, usually in a corner. Again, without considering what the setbacks are and whether there are easements involved. Under the code right now, an accessory building like this is supposed to be at least 6 feet away from any property line. So here at the rear and on the side, it should be 6 feet. Now, another thing complicating this is that there are utility easements along each rear and front property line in a conventional single-family subdivision. There's a 10-foot public utility easement and 5 feet along the side property lines. If you're going to put a building back in the corner like that, then you've got to get permission to encroach into that easement. So a lot of property owners know that utility companies will grant that encroachment if they don't have any utilities back there, and most of them serve the lot from the front, so they can usually get permission to encroach. And we see swimming pools always wanting to encroach to get a little bit closer to the property line, a little bit bigger pool, and these small sheds. So there is a growing need, I guess, to have one set of standards for these sheds. Let me just say, one of the other problems with these are accessory building regulations right now allow buildings to be up to 35 feet high. Fortunately, no one's tried to build a 35-foot high shed in the corner yet. But we've had some that are tall enough that neighbors feel the need to complain and think they should be set back further. So again, part of the issue here is we're setting one set of standards for these small sheds that don't require a permit but do have to be located properly, and then the ones that can be built within the buildable area. So the first set of amendments in the single-family residential zone is under the section on accessory buildings, and it sets forth what the criteria are if you're within the buildable area, what they are if you're outside the buildable area, and then a second part of that is a table for height and area regulations, and it specifies what the height is and so forth. If you're within the buildable area, you can go up to 35 feet. If you're within 6 feet of a property line outside the buildable area, the height limit is 14 feet. And if you get an encroachment or a permission to occupy the easement, we would allow the shed to actually go down to 3 feet from property line. No closer than that. Then building code issues arise that require fire rating and different things. And we want to make sure that they can get access around the building for maintenance, and the roof drainage is handled properly, etc. And then there's a chapter, chapter 8, which is Exhibit B in your packet. That's basically a section, it's called supplementary regulations that apply to all zones. There's a section there for accessory buildings, and these same standards that we put in Exhibit A would be there. And I just want to, there is one correction that needs to be made on Exhibit B under 2E, number 2E. If you read that, it says, I think it says 10 feet, 10-foot setback from property line. It's supposed to be 6 feet. So if we could just change that to 6 feet, that's what the side yard setback is. Okay. Anyway, with that, unless there's a bunch of questions.
Okay, Councilwoman Black.
Is this actually a problem? Like, do we have a lot of issues from this?
We've had a rash of them lately, yeah.
Like, what's a ration?
Well, I had 4 or 5 in the past several weeks, and angry neighbors fighting about it.
About what?
About having the building built too close to their property line, roof drainage on their property, things of that nature.
Seems like we're turning the city code into a giant HOA to me. Like, everything requires permission, and I don't know. I think this is a little too much.
To get it.
So so this will only be used if somebody calls and complains. So you'll be able to say, hey, this doesn't meet our criteria.
Right. And we've developed some handouts. We're trying to do some education, as I said, to help people understand what the issues are, what the rules are. We'll continue to do that.
So what about all the sheds or whatever that have already been built? Are they grandfathered in?
Yeah. And they're all.
I just think this is a little excessive.
Okay.
Your Honor, if I may.
Oh, go ahead, please.
I look at it completely different. If you're building in a utility easement, which no developer can do, and nobody that builds a house can legally do, and does not do, then what gives you the right to build into that easement that you signed in a contract that said it is an easement? And it's not, you have to adhere to the setbacks. And I don't want somebody's shed, and some of these things are 12 feet long, and they build them right up against the edge and they drain off on my property. And again, by code, everything needs to drain from one person's property to the street, not your neighbor's property to the street from your runoff. I don't have a problem with this one at all. And if you think it's overreaching, I think it's probably long overdue. I lived outside of an HOA and I saw it happen.
Councilman Worsman.
I was going to say, I agree with Councilman Rapson 100% because, you know, we start building into easements and things of that, it becomes safety issues as well. I just think that I agree with him that it is overdue and it's something that we do need to fix.
Okay, any other comments from council? Okay, this is a public hearing item. I'll open it up to public hearing. If you wish to come up and make a statement, please do.
Karen Fielding. So sitting here listening to this is what comes to my mind doing real estate. People buy a house with a mountain view or a view. Somebody puts that in their yard, blocks the view. It's going to decrease their value. I mean, you know, they always say location, location, location. So I totally get that because I'm in the same thing right now. They're building a pool and a casita and I have the house listed right next door. And she's like, well, there goes my view because it's a beautiful view. So something like this really needs to be taken care of. And my other question, do they have to go to neighbors to ask permission? No, but they need a permit.
Well, the small ones, they don't even.
Right. Okay. So I totally get it. You know, Mesquite, we have some of that prime property. So I totally understand this permit.
Okay, any other public comment?
Art Calhoun, Mesquite, Nevada. I'm totally in favor of this. Everything that's written in there is for the benefit of keeping the water and what have you on your property. There's some language that is written in there under accessory buildings, number 1, E. And it says to maintain architecturally similar materials and colors. The word similar, what's it mean to you? What's it mean to me? What's it mean to you? It doesn't have a meaning. Everybody has a meaning for it. I think the language should be taken out of there. I think E should be removed. Thank you.
Steve Clutterham, Mesquite resident. I agree with Mr. Rapson. I happen to live in an HOA where this couldn't happen. If you tried to do it, it'd be torn down the next day. However, pretty much all of us have fences no taller than 6 feet. Now they're approving a shed that's up to 14 feet. I think currently he said up to 35 feet. That's a 3-story shed. Or a playpen, or a playhouse for your kids or whatever. So your kids could be in there and fall out into someone else's property if you build it right on the fence line. This is ridiculous. It needs to be stopped now. Thanks.
Any other public comment? Okay, if not, I'll close public hearing and turn it back to council.
I have one more comment, Your Honor, if I may.
Go ahead. Go ahead, please.
You know, this isn't about views. If you're not in an HOA, well, if you are, views are never guaranteed. They are what they are at the day when you buy the property. You can't make the people next door or behind you build what you want them to build to accommodate your view. That's not, I don't think there's any contract written that way. This isn't about views. This is about building in a structure. If it's permitted, you have to adhere to the setbacks. Is that correct, Richard?
Yes.
Yeah.
Correct.
So you've got to adhere. If it's a big structure or if it's a permitted structure, it has to adhere to whatever the city code is or the HOA or whatever. If it's not a permitted structure, which is the little sheds, I mean, we're talking tool sheds. They're not talking 35-foot tall tool sheds, as Richard said. These are generally just, they're for the convenience of a homeowner, and I get it. I love sheds. But you got to put them in a proper spot. You can't put them in a utility easement. You can't put them where they drain off on a adjacent property owner's yard. This isn't anything monumental. I don't think this is a huge deal. This is just simply saying, hey, if you're going to put something in your backyard, you got to do what everybody else does. Play by the rules.
Councilman Worsman.
I kind of agree with Mr. Calhoun on the fact that it's going to be kind of tough to say these tool sheds have to match architecturally in the materials that are on the house. I do agree with that, and so I don't know what else you have, but I'll make a motion if somebody doesn't have anything else to say about this.
Okay, any other comments from council? Is there any e-comment?
There are none.
There are none? Go
I'll
ahead,
second.
then.
Well, let me make the motion first, George.
I'll second anyway.
Okay. I move consideration of adoption of Bill 578 as ordinance 578, and removing that language E that talks about similarities in materials and colors.
Oh, I thought I did. Okay. The public
sorry,
hearing is closed. Yeah, I did. I turned it back to council. Yeah, I did.
Richard,
I did. Okay. So we have a motion and we have a
I have
second.
a comment,
Over the vote,
please. May I comment again?
Yeah, go ahead.
Was the motion to have some sort of conformity on architectural review? Was that in the motion?
No, what I was talking about is we have these tool sheds, and I kind of agree with Mr. Calhoun that these tool sheds aren't going to have the same materials and colors as a home. I don't know that that's the right answer on that, unless Mr. Seacrest has something else he wants to add to that.
It seems to me that if it's in an HOA, that you're going to have to get an ARC permit for architectural review, committee permit to get any structure, anything in your yard. So if you're outside of the HOA, it would be, there's no dictating of architectural conformity involved.
Well, this would wouldn't it?
The section E that Mr. Calhoun referred to is under the section for accessory buildings within the buildable area, building envelope. So we're talking about garages, attached garages. Most people want them to look like they fit with the house. That's all we're saying.
So tool sheds, they don't have to conform to this?
Well,
Is that what that's
some
saying?
of the language down below says that, they need to meet the requirements of section A and B, but that's primarily for the permitted accessory buildings that go within the building envelope. Nobody's going to get a tough shed that, has stuccoed like their house and.
Well, that's what I want to make sure that we don't have.
Yeah, exactly. I agree.
I agree.
Okay. So we need to change that language, but I move to approve this with the change in that language for adoption Bill 578 as ordinance 558.
Okay, so we have a motion.
I'll second.
And we have a second. Okay. Call for the vote, please.
Perhaps
aye.
And that motion passes. Thank you. Item 7.1 is consideration for approval of tentative map case number TM-20-004 Outlook Point Subdivision Phase B, a single-family common interest age-restricted subdivision located generally east of the Horseshoe Ridge Phase B subdivision, west of the Abbott Wash Detention Basin in the Anthem at Mesquite Plan Unit Development PUD. It's a public hearing item. That is Sun City for anybody that's not familiar with that. Do we have questions on that one from council?
No, but I do have a question. Did we skip 6.1 or did I just pass out for a minute?
Yeah. This one was the handicap parking.
We did it.
We did it. Yeah. That was just cleaning up a little bit of the language on that. Okay, so yeah, we're on 7.1.
He voted aye.
Yeah. Well, okay. Listen, we get older, you forget things. So, okay, so any questions on this item? It is a public hearing item from council first. Okay, none. I'll open up public hearing. If you have comment to make on this item, please step up, clearly state your name. I don't see any. I'll close public hearing and turn it back to council.
I make a motion, we approve map case number TM-20-004. I'll second.
And we have a second. Call for the vote, please.
Perhaps an aye.
Galt, aye.
And that motion passes. Thank you. Item 7.2, consideration of approval for an interlocal agreement between the City of Mesquite and the City of Las Vegas for the transfer of 10 new ballistic vests, plates, and helmets to Mesquite Fire Rescue to equip the department's rescue task forces during an active shooter incident. That is Chief Andrus's item. If anybody has any questions of the chief on that item. Okay, nothing from council. Okay, general public, if you wish to make comment on this item. Do we have any e-comment?
There are none.
And there are none. Okay. In that case, I would request a motion on that item.
I make a motion we approve the interlocal agreement between the City of Mesquite and the City of Las Vegas.
I'll second.
Call for the vote, please. Oh, we have a motion and call for the vote.
Galt, aye.
That motion passes. Thank you. Okay, we are down to final public comment. If you have final public comment to make, please clearly state your name. Come on up. I don't see any. Do we have any e-comment?
There are none.
There are none. In that case, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.